Emily Dickinson was an American poet who was born on the 10th of December 1830 and died on the 15th of May 1886. This is my letter to the world, letter to never wrote to me. The simple news that nature told with tender majesty. Her message is committed to hands I cannot see. For love of her sweet countrymen, judge tenderly for me. She was born on the 10th of December 1830 in Amherst, Massachusetts, and educated at the Amherst Academy. Emily admired and respected her father. She didn't have a close relationship with her mother until after she had had a stroke. She was close to her siblings, her elder brother and younger sister, and had a passion for learning. She would leave home only for short trips for the remainder of her life, leading scholars to speculate that she may have been agoraphobic. At the Amherst Academy, she studied English and classical literature and Latin. She also learned other subjects including religion, history, mathematics, geology, and biology. In 1847, at the Mount Holyoke Female Seminary at the age of 17, Dickinson began attending Mary Lyons Mount Holyoke Female Seminary. She returned home after less than a year at the seminary, and she did not return to the school. She appears to have suffered a serious religious crisis at the school. The question of religious faith remained with her throughout her life. Her poems reflect her religious struggle. Her closeness to her brother's wife, Sue Gilbert, has led to speculation that she was the real love of her life. Whether this was love in a physical sense or a romanticized emotional attachment is also much debated. Known for being a recluse, she didn't leave her family's homestead for any reason after the late 1860s. She kept up an extensive correspondence with relatives and friends, and therefore not really cut off from the world. Her family does not seem to have found this behavior odd at all, although to outsiders she soon became known as the myth. It has been suggested that she was agoraphobic or pretending to be so to avoid the social obligations of 19th century women so that she could have more time to write, or that she was a victim of disappointed love. Did Dickinson have any relationships? She wrote passionate poetry. A series of letters addressed to an unidentified master were discovered, leading to this theory being favored. Her close relationship with her sister-in-law, Susan Gilbert, has been mentioned before. Dickinson died from Bright's disease on the 15th of May 1886. After her death, a box containing 900 of her poems was found by her sister Lavinia, and the process of publishing her works began. What exactly is her legacy? Dickinson is considered influential to poets such as Adrian Rich, Richard Wilbur, Archibald MacLeish, and William Stafford. Along with Walt Whitman, Dickinson is one of the two giants of American poetry of the 19th century. An exploration of Emily Dickinson's poetry. She has indeed a very unique style. Let's have a close look at her style. Although she lived a very secluded existence, her poems reveal a life that was one of the richest and deepest ever lived on this continent. some of the characteristics of Dickinson's poetry. She writes in a regular meter, which is a hymn or a ballad meter, also known as common meter. There are quatrains with alternating tetrameter and trimeter. Often the first and third lines rhyme and the second and fourth lines rhyme in iambic pentameter. There is the use of dashes. She was influenced by nature and spiritual themes. Dickinson uses a lot of punctuation, especially dashes. These allow for pauses to emphasize the rhythm of the poem. She also uses a lot of capitalization. This, in addition to the dashes, emphasizes words to draw attention to them. Assonance or slant rhyme. These draw attention to certain words or ideas. At that time, this was an unconventional way to rhyme poetry. Similar to near rhyme, but the words are not as closely rhymed. Usually, a rhyme scheme is already in place. We move on to rhythm. This is usually set up as 8 syllables, 6 syllables, 8 syllables, and for stanzas 4 lines long. This is why many of her poems can be sung. Her rhyme schemes for each stanza are usually ABCB. There's the use of metaphor in profusion. It is powerful. It's an efficient way to produce complex themes in only a few rhymes. She also uses a vast number of personification. Common themes in her poetry are nature and death. She would take a simple scene and use it to communicate a more profound message until the last stanza, which would have a twist. Here's an example of a poem by Emily Dickinson. I like to see it lap the miles and lick the valleys up and stop to feed itself at tanks and then prodigious step around a pile of mountains and supercilious pier in shanties by the sides of roads and then a quarry pad to fit its sides and crawl between, complaining all the while in horrid hooting stanza, then chase itself downhill and neigh like Boanerges, then prompter than a star, stop, docile and impotent at its own stable door. Let us explore Dickinson's publishing career. She sent her poems to Thomas Wentworth Higginson, a literary critic and family friend. He recognized her talent, but tried to improve it. However, Dickinson did not seem to follow his advice, fortunately. At the time of her death, only a handful of her poems had been published, notably about 7. Quite soon after her death, her poems were heavily edited and published by Higginson and friend Mabel Todd. Thomas Johnson, however, produced a collection of Dickinson's poems, more than 1,700, in 3 volumes in 1955. He restored her original capitalization and punctuation. We will have a look at the differences between Higginson's publication and her originals. Here is one notable example. While Dickinson called this poem Because I Could Not Stop for Death, Higginson named it or renamed it The Chariot. On the left is the edited version, on the right is the original. Have a look at the highlighted or the lines in red, where Higginson appears to have changed not just the words but the rhythm as well, and sometimes the rhyme. And the original goes, "We passed the school where children strove at recess in the ring." And Higginson and Todd changed it to, "We passed the school where children played, their lessons scarcely done." Listen to how different that sounds, and listen to how the meaning itself has been changed as well. It has been assumed that because she was so reclusive, her poetry did not have much to do with her current world and what existed in it. But we see that Dickinson did follow certain thematic considerations of transcendentalism. Like not a few transcendentalists, she might have written on the lintels of her doorpost, "Whim." That was her guiding divinity, whim in a high sense, not unruliness, for all her impishness, but complete subjection to her inner diktat. She obeyed it in her mode of life, in her friendships, in her letters, in her poems. It makes her poetry eminently spontaneous, as fresh and artless as experience itself. The other thing that Dickinson was very influenced by was Puritanism, and the inward and moral ruggedness of Puritanism she had inherited mainly through her father, Edward Dickinson, who was a lawyer and treasurer of Amherst College. And she described him and his heart as pure and terrible. There is no better example of the New England tendency to moral reverie than this last pale Indian summer flower of Puritanism. She is said literally to have spent years without passing the doorstep, and many more years without leaving her father's grounds. After the death of her parents, not to mention her dog Carlo, she retired still further within herself. Because I could not stop for them. He kindly stopped for me. The carriage held but just ourselves and immortality.